So what I want to explore with you today is the world of thoughts, of thinking. It's a very important realm for human beings, and having some ability to be mindful of thinking and some mastery of the world of thinking is a very important part of meditation practice. Just because we have a saying, I think it's kind of, I've heard it saying in English, something like, oh, it's just a thought, as if maybe it's dismissive of thoughts that don't really count. We have another saying that goes something like, oh, it's a thought that counts, and as if thoughts are really important, what we think is important. I think in Buddhism it's more the latter. The idea that it's a thought that counts is very central to the Buddhist exploration of the human being and the path to freedom. Thinking is seen as a kind of a power or a strength or an energy that has consequences. It isn't just simply a thought arises and bubbles up and then that's it. But thoughts have a power or energy or a set in motion, momentum or a cause-and-effect relationship. And we see it a little bit, teeny bit, perhaps, in the way that maybe many people think, that thinking is often associated thinking. That, if you sit down, if you sat down to have a conversation with someone, kind of casually, you might start with one subject, and 10 minutes later, you're talking about something totally different. You wonder, how did I get there? And the mind is the same way. You start in one place in your thoughts, and 10 minutes later, you're thinking about something completely different. And how did you get there? And I think if you trace it back, both in conversation and in your thinking, you'll see there's a kind of a cause and effect relationship that goes on. It's not completely random, because conversations as well as thinking is often associative. So that a thought arises, and that we associate it with something else, and the mind goes off on that tangent and another tangent. And sometimes we come back to the original theme, and sometimes we never do, and we don't know where we are. The world of thoughts has consequence not only in our own inner psychic life, but it has huge consequences in the world around us. And probably, you can imagine or think that almost everything that's part of the human creation, human society, cities, buildings, technology, everything, had somehow its origin in human thinking. People have to think it first and imagine it. And most of the ways in which people relate to each other in big ways are products of having thought about something first. Some people prefer to feel rather than to think, and sometimes people make a sharp dichotomy between the world of thinking and the world of feeling or emotions. Technically or strictly in Buddhism, there is no sharp dichotomy between having an emotion or feeling and thoughts. They kind of arise together, and they're closely entangled with each other, related to each other. Often the emotion or the feeling we have arises because of a certain thoughts or ideas, values that the mind carries around what's happening. Sometimes the thoughts and values and ideas we have about things is prompted by, or happens through the filter of the emotions or feelings we have in relationship to things. And it's a kind of, sometimes feelings come first and then the thoughts. Sometimes thoughts come first and then the feelings. But they're closely connected, and sometimes so connected it's very hard to tease them apart. So it's a very important area. So that's what we'll explore a little bit. So make yourself comfortable in a meditative posture. But comfortable in the world of meditation means that you also sit alert. So you don't just kind of sit back and in the couch and take it easy. But you sit up in such a way that your spine is a little bit straighter than it normally would be. You've probably been in a situation where your senses, your awareness had to be really heightened, maybe because of danger or something, and you kind of get up straight, sit up straight, stand up straight, because you're alert. But here we don't want to be alert because we're tense, but alert in a relaxed way. Softly closing the eyes. And then taking some moments to set your body at ease. Be at ease in your body. maybe by breathing with your body, relaxing on the out-breath, to be at ease. Even if you feel uncomfortable in your body in some way, perhaps you can be at ease about the discomfort. And in the best way you can, let your mind and your heart be at ease. Even if there's something that's bothering you, perhaps you can be at ease about its presence. Letting yourself be at ease with whatever is happening, even if you're uneasy. It might be helpful to take a few long, slow, deep breaths. As you breathe in deeply, to feel your torso expand and stretch. And as you exhale, to relax your body, soften. Taking a few long, slow, deep breaths. And as you exhale, lowering yourself into your body, settling into your body, feeling it, being it. Letting the center of gravity of your being perhaps lower itself into the abdomen, into the floor, your chair. Letting your breath return to normal and having an easy breathing, not breathing in any particular way. And then for the next few breaths, just for a few breaths, try to feel each breath, in-breath and out-breath, carefully. And then as you continue feeling the breath, being with the breath, when you start thinking, when your mind gets pulled into the world of thoughts, notice that really clearly. This is what's going on. Don't feel like it's wrong or bad. The assignment here is when you're thinking, just to acknowledge that, see it, notice what you're thinking about. And then, once it's clearly acknowledged, then see if you can, in some way, let go of it, or let it recede to the background, so you can come back to your breathing, until the next thought kind of creeps in. And as thoughts appear, as thoughts take over or come into the foreground of attention, see if you can notice the strength of them, the strength of the impulse. Is there any pressure? Is there any sense of being compelled by them, or sense of energy? Or are those thoughts really casual, easy-go-lucky, like little wisps of clouds? Or do they have strength to them? Are they insistent? When you find yourself thinking, don't let go of it now. Just let yourself keep thinking. But be clearly aware that that's what you're doing. If your thoughts go away when you're being watched, that's fine. Go back to your breathing. And then when the next thought arises or thinking happens, then let that be. Let yourself continue doing so. But be clearly aware that you're thinking. And stay aware. And to the degree which you can pay attention or notice that you're thinking, listen to the tone of the inner voice that's doing the thinking. Like you're listening to someone else speak and you're listening to the tone of their voice. Listen to the tone of that inner voice, if possible. Is it soft, gentle, harsh? Is it accepting? Is it insistent? Is it hesitating? Is it impatient or confused? Fast or slow? Is it at ease or is it worried? And when you're paying attention to your thinking, how are you relating to your thinking? Are you accepting of the thinking mind, or do you feel that it shouldn't be there, or you wish it would stop, or is it a friendly relationship or an antagonistic relationship you have to that part of yourself? Would you rather not be conscious of your thinking while it's happening? And a little bit more difficult investigation is to see, is there some belief that you hold that's behind what you tend to think about? If you spend a lot of time planning, maybe there's an underlying belief that if you plan, you'll be safe, or you'll fix things. Or maybe there's a belief, if you're reliving conversations, that you can remake yourself into a better person by having certain kinds of thoughts. The process of thinking is partly a physical process. Sometimes the physical aspect of thinking is very clearly evident when we tighten up our eyebrows when we think, or strain our eyes, or tighten up our neck or our shoulders. Sometimes the physical aspect of thinking is very subtle. It takes a very sensitive mind to notice the physical quality that's inherent in thinking. But can you find any physical expression, manifestation of your thinking process as it occurs? Some pressure or tension or tightness? Sense of energy somewhere in the body, maybe in the head? Vibration? Or does it seem that your thinking has no connection to your body, kind of floats freely, casually, easily? And then over the next few out breaths, see if you can relax and soften your thinking mind as you breathe out. Don't let go of thoughts as much as see if you can soften the impulse, the energy, the strength of the thinking mind, the mind which is often weary. Let it rest. If we spend our time preoccupied with our thinking, it becomes almost as if our thoughts are who we are. But our thinking is a very small part of what it is to be a human being. Can you relax, soften into the stillness and the silence of who you are that's bigger than your thinking? The stillness and the silence around and between your thoughts. Relaxing into a wider sense of presence, of aliveness, of beingness that's bigger than thinking. A sense of aliveness or presence in your being, in your body, that has nothing to do with the past or the future, nothing to do with comparing yourself to others or to ideals. Just resting here and now in presence, alert, aware presence that sometimes can be so big that thoughts or thinking, just little kind of insignificant flies kind of flying around the edges. And then feeling your body sitting here in the room, feeling contact of your body against your chair or the cushion, the floor. The contact of your hands against your body, perhaps. And then taking a few long, slow, deep breaths as a way of ending the sitting. And then when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. Maybe I should have said at the beginning that what I was going to ask you to do is to be naturalists of your thoughts, that to study the human phenomena of thinking like a naturalist would study, an animal in the wild or something, as a natural process that goes on. And for human beings, it's one of the preeminent natural processes that goes on. And but still, human beings are born with thoughts, born to think. We can have a tattoo, born to think. But I imagine that for some of you, to have spent a half an hour making thinking a subject of your investigation, your exploration, is a novel thing. I mean, never spent so much time in your life kind of actually trying to bring kind of a naturalist awareness to this particular process of our life. So I'm very curious to hear what it was like for you, some of you. Some of you would like to report what happened in that sitting, what you discovered in exploration. And we have his mic somewhere. So in the back there.
The part I really got into was when you asked something about, is there a physical sensation, or I'm using my own words now, but kind of tone of the thinking. And I really got in touch with how, and you asked, is there an underlying belief system or something? How it seems like there's this kind of underlying tone of, fear and then clench and, okay, now, if I just really control and really think hard and really figure it out, it'll be all right. And that the most basic thing is that kind of clenching, which, I could sort of stop momentarily, but then it would come back.
Must be exhausting.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you. It's possible you're the only one who thought during the whole half an hour. Here, Wendy.
I've been reading the book, The Power of Now, and he tells you to put your mind in your stomach. And so when you were talking about getting into the rest of your awareness of yourself, that was very helpful to understand what he was saying.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you.
Following up on that, I was pleased to be reminded again that my thoughts are just a little tiny part of me, and that there is much, much, much more. I think I tend to think like lots of folks that's who I am, my thoughts, my thinking, my political views or lack of views or whatever. These days, there's so much discussion on an academic, intellectual level around here about everything. And so it was particularly comforting and sort of a relief to be reminded that that's not all I am. It's just a little bit of who I am. Yeah, thank you.
One of the interesting exercises is to, in a sense, ask yourself, who are you when you're not thinking? And how are you going to find out if you're not thinking? And some people ask that question, or up against that edge, and they get afraid. Because if they don't have their thoughts telling them who they are, then it's very disorienting.
I'd like to put in a plug for that film. What the bleep do we know? I guess that's the title of it. What the bleep do we know is a film that's out. You guys know about it because it was advertised in the email of our Sangha. And I just want to put a plug in because it's a lot about mind and emotions and the coming together of science and physics and spirituality and that sort of thing.
Okay, I don't know about it. So what do some of you discover? Be game. Take a risk here. Or did you all get silenced so thoroughly? Yeah.
I discovered that my mind likes certain kinds of thinking.
Uh-huh.
But, you asked, are you friendly towards the way your thoughts? And if I'm problem solving, my mind really likes that. I'm very comfortable with that. That's an activity that I feel very friendly towards. And other kinds of thinking, I'm not as friendly towards. So it was interesting that it's not just thinking as a process. Certain kinds of thoughts, I know how to get very comfortable and relaxed with them and just roll with the process, and others I don't.
So often when we're thinking, there can be a subconscious, unconscious attitude we have about the fact that we're thinking about the thoughts. And there can be interest and fascination. There could be abhorrence. There could be judgments. And this is, a human being shouldn't be having these kinds of thoughts. Or this is great, I'm the next Mother Teresa, and I should keep thinking this way. And we have an attitude towards these things that it can happen, and so you're speaking towards that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I realized that was just the habit of mind that I've cultivated so much that it might be possible I should be a little softer towards some other kinds of thinking and cultivate those as well.
I was interviewed after having sat the 3-month retreat by some guy. And he had a tape recorder. He was asking me about my 3-month retreat. And he had sat the retreat also. He's at many 3-month retreats. And I think he struggled a lot with his thinking mind. It never really settled very deep. That was the impression I got, because he was always thinking. And so he asked me during this interview what my relationship to my thinking was during the retreat. And I said, I had a friendly relationship to my thoughts. And I had the impression that he almost fell off his chair. That someone would have friendly relationship to their thoughts was just kind of so strange for him. That he was struggling so much with them. And I think having a friendly relationship made it a lot easier for them to quiet down.
I wasn't going to say anything, but as the thoughts were coming, and what I realized is that for me, some of it is being really forgetful. And so when I quiet down, I start thinking about everything that I forgot. And it just feels so important to me that I have to hold on to it so that I can not forget. During the meditation I was thinking, well, if only I could find a time when I didn't have to worry about anything. But then I realized, well, I don't know if there is such a time, really. I mean, unless you carve it out of, you carve a space out of your life. And I don't know, just
I think it's very important for human beings to have reflective time when they actually reflect and have leisurely time or spacious time to think and reflect about things going on in their life and let things bubble up and not constantly be distracted from your own process of thinking by your own thoughts. But you go for a walk or sit quietly, sip tea. I think it's a very important part of human life. And if a person doesn't have something like that, then sometimes there's such a pressure to have that happen during meditation itself, rather than learning to let go of thoughts in meditation and go deeper. What happens in meditation, in part, is that that which has pressure in it, that which is built up, the holding patterns or the unresolved things in our life, kind of are stored in different places. And as the surface lids of the mind get taken off because we're relaxing, then some of the stuff begins to pop up. And that's part of the function of meditation, is to let these things pop up. But we also then want to let go of it right away. The important thing is that it's appeared. Once it's appeared, its meditative purpose is past. And so you want to let go of it and go deeper. And if we pick it up, what arises, then we've interrupted the meditative process. And there's all kinds of reasons. I know people who sit on retreats, and third day of the retreat they've discovered the storyline for the next great American novel. And they're afraid of letting go of it. It's really important to remember that, and they're really into it. And what happens sometimes on retreats and meditation is the mind gets very creative. And so the creativity gets placed in very interesting things like a great American novel, and then off the mind runs. And it's a nice thing. It's very pleasant. Maybe it will be the next great American novel. But America needs more than the next Buddha, the next American novel. It needs But what an analogy I like to use is that for the meditative process is that it's kind of like going into an elevator. And say you're going to go up to the 10th floor of a building, and the top floor, say. And you go into the elevator, and the function of the elevator is to carry you up. And so it takes you up to the first floor, I guess the second floor. And you come to the second floor, and the door opens. Now the elevator, it will keep going up to third, fourth, and so forth. But the doors open up at the second floor, and you see the second floor for the first time. And the second floor is fascinating. So you get off. And the door closes, and the elevator continues. And it takes you a long time to explore and get lost in the second floor. And then the doors open again at some point, but now it's a down elevator, and it takes you out. And you lost your chance. And so, the best thing to do about whatever pops up in meditation, wonderful thoughts, great ideas and all that, is to let go of them. Because in letting go of them, the elevator can take you further. The meditation was working to get you where you got. And don't interrupt the process. Let the process take you further. Just let go and go and see what else, the deeper will happen. No, thank you. Good. Yes, please.
Well, this idea of being comfortable with your discomfort is something I've been experimenting with or looking at in the last few days, and that's a very interesting thing to try and do, is to notice your discomfort and just be comfortable with it. One of the things I've noticed is that sometimes I have, and this happened during this half hour, was that I had a compassionate thought when I noticed someone was uncomfortable, and I had a compassionate thought of helping them. But then I was sort of aware of a little pride for feeling compassionate, but then wondering if it really was compassion or if it was really wanting to fix somebody else's problem that really was theirs to fix. And that in general I wasn't meditating on my thoughts, but on that particular thing I was wondering if it really was compassion, if it made sense to act on it, what it meant to not act on it. And that was the subject of thought.
Interesting. That's good. That's a good subject. So Audrey, and then the last one, and then we'll...
I had a great array of... Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I had an array of experiences, but the first thing that came up was an awareness that I can become obsessed with something that I feel I have to do that's very important, and I don't want to forget it. So I hang in there until I realize I have to let go of it. And then when the meditation is over, I can't remember that at all. So, what was it I was thinking so hard about that was so important? So it was some kind of an observation of the changing mind or the impermanence of a thought. Then I worried about whether I would share this and what sharing in a group meant to me, with some fear about talking in a group. But then on the other side, and much more often, I find myself drifting into very pleasurable thoughts, just things that give me pleasure and make me feel good, just like whipped cream.
Yeah. And sometimes it's quite natural for the mind to go into pleasant thoughts, and sometimes it's very clearly an escape. It's an avoidance mechanism to go and find something pleasant, wonderful fantasies. And so, thank you so much for that. And I would like to recommend something for you guys for today. And that is two things. Is to spend another half an hour at some point today, in your own way, could be going for a walk or sitting on a bench or sitting in meditation, and explore this world of thinking again one more time. And the second thing I recommend is that you find someone. It could be a friend, it could be a stranger, someone in the Sangha here, but someone for whom you can have a little discussion about what happened to you in this exploration of your thinking, this meditation here, or if you do it again later today. So it's not just something you're exploring alone, but actually you share it with someone else and have some exchange back and forth and exploration. Put it in words. So those are my thoughts.